Welcome to my podcast. My name is Corrinala, and I come to you from the Pacific Northwest, where I live with my husband, 2 horses that I adopted from the Bureau of Land Management Wildhorse Adoption Program, and 2 kitties we adopted from the local animal shelter. Information about these adoption programs will be in the show notes for every episode. The purpose of this podcast is to share real-life stories that hopefully are relatable to other crafters who might be interested in horses. The format of this podcast starts with a walk to the barn to feed the horses, catch up on the week, share my knitting projects, and other interests like bicycling or hiking. I also talk about vegetable gardening and cooking. I hope you bring your favorite beverage and a fun, crafty project to work on. Enjoy! Hey friends, welcome to the knitting part of this episode. So first of all, I want to point out I'm not wearing a knitted top. This is crocheted. This is a tunic, and it's the first crocheted garment I ever made. I made it when my grandmother was still alive, so probably 2011 or so. So it is, I don't know if I can back up far enough for you to see, but you can see it goes down. Here's my waist. So it goes down, so to the tips of my fingers. So it's a nice summer top. Hello again, back in frame. So trying to get, there we go. Hopefully that's a little bit better. Oh, I see I have a little hair sticking up. Okay, I am also wearing some hand knit socks. I won't show you those. They are a pattern by K.F. Jones, and they are the Scrappy Quilt Socks. Those are linked to my project page. I do not have a project page for this because I might have been a Ravelry user at the time, but I am not really putting projects in like I am now. So let's catch up on the knitting, shall we? Let's talk about finished objects. So, I could do these in order, but I'm not going to because these are the ones that happen to be on the sock blockers right now. These are the Surf Wax Socks by Summer Lee. These came out of a book that a viewer gave me last summer. Thank you very much, Anne. Really appreciate it. And the yarn was out of a repurposed yarn by Freckled Whimsey. I don't know what the colorway name is, but hopefully you can see the kind of the nifty pattern on these socks. So I finished these yesterday. They're not blocked. I don't block my socks. I just wear them and put them in the washing machine. And then the other pair of socks, if you follow me on Instagram, I started using Instagram again. I take breaks and then I decide I want to start using it again. And I will try to remember to put my Instagram handle in my show notes in case you're interested. Or you can see these on Ravelry as well if you're interested in the pattern. So these colorwork socks, super fun. These are out of the Charlotte Stone book, Joyful Colorwork Socks, I think. So entirely out of scrap yarn. This is a very sturdy yarn it's a finish wool. I bought like maybe a 50-gram ball in Viroqua, Wisconsin a couple of years ago. I tried a different, instead of doing the usual grafting. I tried a Russian graft with a crochet hook. I may have done it wrong. I learned it last week at Fiberfest, and yeah, I'm not sure I love this. So like I said, I probably did it wrong because there was like a demonstration. I did it and then left. So, and then I did the standard graft here. I'm not really sure why I put this little pop of color in the toe, but it's kind of cute. It actually looks like kind of a mouth, but I didn't do it on this one. So these socks, so this was a West Yorkshire Spinners yarn, this main color. This is a short row heel. I don't love short row heels. I prefer heel flap and gusset, but it worked out for this pattern. And then all the little kitties, the Purr-fect socks, are scrap yarn. So, and some of them have just really tiny scraps. These features, like the eyes, nose, and whiskers features, take very little yarn. So it's a great way to use that teeny tiny scraps. So these are going to go in my sock drawer. I have a box of socks that I haven't worn yet that I just keep putting in. But I don't know. I could just stick them in the rotation, I suppose. I hope you have something nice to drink. I'm still drinking tea. What else should we talk about? I did not bring my sock arms cardigan because I'm just still working on the body, round and round and round. I probably have about 50 rows left. You might remember that I had it all finished and the ribbing on and bound off, and then I noticed that there was a distinct color change between two balls of yarn. So I ripped it all out back up to the armpits, or where I joined it, and so it's a sock arms cardigan, but I turned it into a pullover. Anyway, I ripped it all the way back to where I joined it and then started doing helical knitting, which is a technique in which you can alternate balls of yarn, so to blend the color better. So I have about 50 rounds left before I finish the body and then do the ribbing. I could, one thing I could do is I could figure out how to do the neckline and what I want to do with that. Because it's a smaller set of needles. So I could do that to have something more interesting. At the rate I'm going at about 4 rounds a day when I work on it, I should have it finished in about, at least the body, in about 10 days, I suppose. So longer, 2 weeks. I'm looking at my pile of projects over here. We are going out of town, not next Friday. So there will be a podcast next Friday, but there won't be much knitting after that because we are going on a bicycle trip. So let me show you. This is, I think this is my, nope, let's save this. That's a new cast one. So this is what this bag made by my mom was the one that the surf wax socks were in, but I changed it to, my yarn is misbehaving. I changed it to my bust knitting socks, which are the Lemontop socks by KF Jones, because I had it in a zipper bag, which is fine for bust knitting. But what I found is that if I want to knit, say at the bus stop, and then need to put things away quickly, it's harder. So I decided to put everything in this bag because I can attach it around my wrist and shove everything in without having to like open my backpack and rearrange everything and stuff back in. So I'm working on the second sock. I am getting close to the heel. on this sock. So here is the first finished sock for reference. So it's kind of a spirally pattern. I love textured socks. I find them, especially if they're pretty easy. This is an easy pattern. I think it's an 8-row repeat. And this colorway is Freckled Whimsey, and it is Phoenix Tears, so reference to Harry Potter. And I think I cast on 60 stitches for this, if I remember right. So US size 0, so which is a 2 millimeter, which is my preferred size in Magic Loop. I think the pattern comes in standard like 56, 64, and 72, but I kind of like the in-between, and the repeat works out for 60 stitches, so that was a pretty easy adjustment. So I'm gonna have quite a bit of yarn left over because I'm on my second sock and I have that much, so which is kind of fun that I get more than one pair of socks out of a ball of yarn. This is the Staffin Lite. Still working on this, making some progress though. A bag also made by my mom. This is a quilted bag with some batik liner. I love the drawstring, you know, in part for the reasons that I just mentioned. It's easy to, like, you know, hang on to it without having to stuff it anywhere. So the Staffin Lite is a top, summer top pattern by Rebecca Clow. It comes in multiple options: fingering, DK, tank, or T. I opted for the DK tank, and let me show you the front. So this is what it looks like so far. I have done one repeat of the pattern, which is 36 rows, which starts, I think, with this ribbing here. Can you ribbing here? And then finish the pattern repeat. It has this diamond shape here, and then I started the ribbing for the second repeat of that, and then that should do it. And then there's some finishing on the arms, which is good because this is an awfully big armhole, and the neck, which, you know, summer top don't really care about that. So this is a DK yarn that I made my wedding shawl from. So this is how much is left on this cone. I have another partial cone. So this is from Wool Warehouse. Apparently I had 3 cones. So, and I have a whole other cone, and there's 450 yards on this. So I'll probably get something else out of this as well. Chowgu red lace needles, US size 6. So I believe that's 4 millimeter. So that's coming along. This is for a knit along. Hopefully I finish it. It's the knit along is through the end of June, so I'm not sure. That has been more of my priority, which is one of the reasons why the sock arms cardigan is, or pullover, is kind of taking a back seat. All right, so let's talk about, I think I've shared this one with you. This is in a bag made by my husband. This was the prototype bag for the bigger bag that he made for that the sock arms cardigan is in. So it's kind of, it's perfect size really for socks. So these are the Sophie's, I think they're mystery socks. I finished the ribbing. So this is where I learned this new technique of putting a pop of color, doing the long tail cast on, but not needing to measure it out. It's a really cool cast on. I'm not sure if it has a name, but you use 2 strands of yarn. So if you want to pop a color, you put the contrast color on the thumb part of when you're casting on. And that ends up being the bottom row, as it were. So this yarn, so I just finished the ribbing and I'm starting on the actual main pattern. And this yarn is a repurposed yarn that I ripped out a pair of long colorwork socks from the book, and I did see the book, Sock Knitting Masterclass by Ann Budd. I'm looking at my shelf of books over there. So lots of color work. I ripped out the socks and put it in this ball. So this socks will not match, but I like the way this is coming up so far. It'll be interesting to see how this works out. I think this ball of yarn is about 70 grams, so I will definitely get both socks out of this. Typically what I do for the leg is about 48 rounds plus whatever the ribbing is. I do a heel flap and gusset, and then with the gusset decreases and the foot, it's around 60 rows until I do the toe. So, and that is usually less than 50 grams of yarn for the socks. Now, let's talk about, I do have my blanket. I just finished one square since the last time I showed it to you, so let's just save that for another time. And let's talk about the new cast on that's in this one. So I've been on this kind of simple sock cast on just because I anticipate as I get used to the bus schedule while I commute to work that I will get more done on my socks. So, and I really need very simple patterns that are repeatable and I don't have to refer to the pattern too much. This bag, again, made by my mom, and it is a lined bag with a drawstring closure, which I really like. And I am using, these are the Practically Perfect socks. So if you are participating in Kay Jones, Bakery Bears, Summer of Stitching, I just noticed it's clouding up outside, which I am a little bit surprised. Anyway, I just cast these on. I am using, and I've used that technique where it's a long tail cast on with a pop of color. So I am using Chogu. These are the mini twists. This is a 9-inch circular in a US, it's 2.25 millimeters. So that's, and I just am starting the ribbing. So this little beginning of round is, I got this at Fiberfest last week and it came in a set of 3. So local artist did these. There you go. Oops. This way, this way. So, just prepping for some bus knitting. So, and I braided the ends from the cast on and they can just stay out of the way. So that is that. So I just hang these on my chair. So if I get a chance to knit while I am working, so I have 3 projects hanging off my chair right now. I have 2 socks and my 100-acre wood blanket. So that is it for the knitting projects, I think. Let me look at my notes. So it, you know, this could be a shorter episode than what I've had in the recent past. The weather has been quite warm. I would say even hot last weekend. Did some bicycling Saturday and Sunday. On Saturday, I just rode by myself and rode about, I want to say around 8 miles. Rode up into the tree farm a little bit on my gravel bike, and it was just really peaceful and wonderful. I didn't see anything except a deer. Then on Sunday, Randy and I rode our bikes to the library in town so that we just went through the tree farm down to a rails to trails trail and rode up to the library and dropped off a book that I had checked out and then went down back down the hill into town and got some coffee and ice cream to power our way back home. And that ended up about being like 20 or so miles. So that was great. And then, of course, Monday, work. I was going to talk more about horsemanship at this point. So I changed the pens a little bit so that Bragi has more room and he has a tree that he can scratch, scratch his itchy spots, have some shade that isn't in his stall. And so he's been getting used to that. Odin still has 3 trees, so I only took 1 tree away from him. I did have to readjust the fencing a little bit yesterday because there was a stump included in Bragi's enclosure, and he immediately started chewing on it, which wouldn't bother me, except he still has hay in his stall, and that he prefers to chew on the stump rather than eat his hay indicates to me a bit of an anxiety issue. So, which is it's a complex subject, and usually you want to give horses options in order to meet their needs. And Bragi's an anxious horse. If you've been with me for a while, you know that. So, but chewing on stumps isn't necessarily good for digestive. Sometimes they can get a little blockage, and he has done that twice now. Once fairly seriously a couple years ago. Well, it's been more than that. I want to say it's about 4 years ago, where I actually had to have the vet come out and sedate and tube him, and he was fine. And then he did it again earlier this year. I want to say a few months ago, where I didn't actually have to call the vet. I just took his food away from him and kept him kind of enclosed in his smaller pen, and then said good night, good luck, I hope I see you in the morning. And when I saw him in the morning, he was just really mad that he was out of hay. He had eaten every single little dusty scrap out of his stall. So all that to say, there's a reason for, encouraging horses to make better choices and still trying to meet their needs. I don't know what he's anxious about. It's hard to tell. He's been on a good path recently. Sometimes I think it's because he's a very itchy horse too, which is kind of a chicken or egg situation. It's like, is he anxious because he's itchy, or does, on the other hand, sometimes anxiety can show up as itchiness? So I don't know. I've been trying to treat his allergies for years now, trying to figure out what the best solution is. I've had him allergy tested and have removed all the, all the food trigger allergens from his diet. So basically he's limited to timothy. He can have flax, he can have beet pulp. He can't have a lot of other things. He can have carrots. He's allergic to apples though, and he's allergic to alfalfa. So that limits his diet. So I can imagine there's some, like a stump could be some variety in his diet. I understand. However, I, also want him to make good choices in terms of supporting his own digestive health. All that to say, I moved the fencing a little bit yesterday to get the stump out of his reach, and continue to provide him with enough forage. And then when he realizes he can't chew on a stump, he goes and eats his hay. So that's a much better choice. He did really well at his lesson last week. I did all of the handling, and we got to progress a little bit from where we were about, like, focus your attention on me and connect with me and stay with me, and all of that. He did super well. And then I went to practice a little bit yesterday, and he was kind of all over the place. So I'm not exactly sure what changed for him. It feels like this week has been a little unpredictable in a way. You know, and it's possible, it just takes him a while to get used to things. So moving his pen could have upset the apple cart, so to speak. My trainer's coming today and we'll just figure it out. So see where he's at and continue being consistent. So Odin, on the other hand, you know, I said that he had a setback about a month ago, and I thought it was from him kind of overdoing it in the pasture, galloping around and stuff like that. And I had made a note on my whiteboard in my tack room saying, on 5/18, noticed Odin was not putting much weight on his hind left. And that was impacting his right front, the opposite diagonal. So I was really concerned about that. So I totally stepped back from the work that we had been doing, but continuing it at a shorter time scale and doing what I thought were easier things. Well, my farrier was here yesterday, and she picked up his, when she got to his left hind, she said, oh, he looks like he blew an abscess out of this left hind foot. I was like, oh, okay. Well, that explains why he's been improving. He feels better, and I'm glad that it's not really a setback on his arthritis. So big relief there, and I feel like we can just kind of continue on a little bit. He still does have some problems. I mean, his right front still seems like I need to be very careful with it. So I need to, for instance, show him how to walk properly down a short slope from the round pen to the pasture, so that he doesn't like completely put all his weight on his forehand, which is what he likes to do, rather than put it on his hindquarters. And it makes him unbalanced, and it's like he's going to fall over on his nose, which is why he's been so uncomfortable to ride all these years that I've been riding him. So I am just going to take my time on working on his strength and balance and hope that we can get back to riding at some point. So that's Odin. What else can we talk about? So the only other thing that's been going on is some gardening. I harvested garlic scapes and made garlic scape pesto. I harvested the garlic yesterday. The bulb, I probably could have waited, but oh well. It's out of the ground now, so, and I have plenty, so I'm just letting that cure. Providing it doesn't rain. I mean, the clouds are really gathering. I mean, I think we're expecting it to be nice, and it was beautiful this morning. And it has been. It's been in the, Monday was the warmest day. It got into the low 80s, and then it immediately dropped down to like the high was like 67 degrees, and then it slowly crept back up. So that is the pattern that we expect, is it to continue to get warmer. So we're going out to dinner tonight with Randy's sister and her husband and their daughter and her boyfriend. Her husband's birthday was Tuesday, and mine is on Sunday, so we're going to celebrate. And then tomorrow, Randy is taking me out to dinner to a nice restaurant in town, and then we're going to stop by some friends' house that have a solstice bonfire and visit with them. And then on Sunday, we're going to have a few friends over to celebrate. And then on Monday, I'm going to a clinic over in Eastern Washington. I am going to spend the night. The clinic starts at 4 p.m. So I'm going to drive over in the afternoon and attend the clinic, and then spend the night and come back home on Tuesday morning. So the name of that clinician is Sam Van Fleet. I have watched her YouTube channel, and I will endeavor to put it in my notes if you are interested in her horsemanship. She's a young woman who has a lot of experiences with Mustangs, and her most recent video is showing her 10-year journey with her Mustang Lynx. So it's pretty cool. It's very impressive. So highly recommend that. And that's all I have. So hope you have a great weekend, a great week, and I'll see you next time. Good morning, friends. Happy Friday, June 19th, 2026. It is also known as Juneteenth, which marks the more widely known end of slavery, a couple years after the end of the Civil War. It is Friday, so it's naturally my day off. It has been a short week. I got to take yesterday off as well, and I'm planning on taking part of Monday off. It is also my birthday weekend, so that is fun to think about the plans and the things we're going to do, and of course I'll talk about that in the next episode rather than forecasting into the future. It's been a good week. I rode the bus down to work on Monday and back, and I think I found the right combination of buses and trains to take that are the most efficient for me, least stressful. Monday was also the first day of the World Cup games in Seattle, so while the commute down was relatively quiet, I actually had enough room to knit on the train. The way back was really crowded, especially as we got into Seattle. So I'll talk about horse news. Speaking of horses, there's waiting for breakfast. Bragi is in his stall. And I have 2 finished objects to share with you. So I'll see you during our catch-up time.